This is not your average family squabble. This is a story about a hidden truth, a shocking discovery, and the moment one person realized their entire life was built on a foundation of lies. Get ready to have your jaw drop, because the family drama we're unraveling today is unlike anything you've ever heard. This is the story of the Millers. There was David, the patriarch, a man of few words but strong convictions, a pillar of his community, always ready to lend a hand, whether it was fixing a neighbor's leaky roof or volunteering at the annual town fair. He had a stern gaze that could make you straighten up, but his quiet acts of kindness were legendary. His wife, Sarah, was the gentle soul, the glue that held them all together, known for her incredible apple pies and her unwavering optimism, even in the face of life's little challenges. She was the one who filled their home with warmth and laughter, the kind of mother who always had a comforting word and a warm hug ready. They had two children, a son, Michael, and a daughter, Emily. Michael, the elder, was the golden boy, the one destined for greatness. From a young age, he exhibited an almost preternatural ability to excel. He was smart, athletic, and possessed a charm that could disarm anyone. He was the star quarterback in high school, the debate team captain, and graduated top of his class, going on to a prestigious Ivy League university. Their parents spoke of Michael with a palpable sense of pride, often introducing him with hushed tones of admiration. He was the embodiment of the American dream they had envisioned. Emily, on the other hand, was the quiet observer, the artist of the family. She saw the world in colors and textures, a sensitive soul who preferred the company of her sketchbooks and the rustle of leaves in the backyard to large social gatherings. While Michael thrived in the spotlight, Emily found solace in her own world, often feeling like she lived in his shadow, a quieter melody in the symphony of Michael's dazzling success. She had a unique way of seeing beauty in the mundane, turning ordinary moments into extraordinary sketches. Their childhood, on the surface, was perfectly normal. Summers filled with endless bike rides down dusty country roads, autumns with visits to pumpkin patches and bonfires, and winters with cozy evenings by the fireplace, sipping hot cocoa. But even then, subtle cracks were forming in the seemingly perfect facade. Michael, despite his outward charm, had a competitive streak that sometimes bordered on ruthless. He didn't just want to win, he needed to win, to be the best, no matter the cost. Whether it was a simple board game or a high-stakes academic competition. Emily, with her quiet nature, often found herself sacrificing her own desires to avoid conflict, to keep the peace, always deferring to Michael's dominant personality. She learned early on that it was easier to let him have his way than to endure the silent disapproval or the subtle digs. Fast forward to their adult lives. Michael, true to form, became a highly successful corporate lawyer in New York City. He quickly climbed the ranks, known for his sharp mind and his even sharper negotiating skills. He had the penthouse apartment with panoramic views, the sleek luxury car, and a social calendar packed with power lunches and exclusive events. He was everything their parents had always envisioned for him, a testament to relentless hard work and unwavering ambition. His success was a constant topic of conversation at family gatherings. Emily, after graduating from art school with honors, pursued her passion for illustration. She built a small but thriving business from her home in a nearby, quieter town, converting an old barn into her sun-drenched studio. Her clients ranged from independent book publishers to local businesses looking for unique branding. She didn't have Michael's flashy success or his immense wealth, But she had a life that brought her immense joy, creative fulfillment, and a deep sense of purpose. She often said her art was her sanctuary, a place where she felt truly free. The family dynamic subtly shifted as they grew older. Their parents, David and Sarah, were immensely proud of both their children, but there was an undeniable, almost glittering shine in their eyes when they spoke of Michael's achievements. His promotions, his new clients, his latest acquisition, these were celebrated with gusto. Emily often felt her artistic pursuits, though praised, were seen as a pleasant hobby rather than a serious, demanding career. It was never explicitly said, never a harsh word, but the subtle comparisons, the slight shift in tone, the way conversations invariably drifted back to Michael's latest triumph always left a tiny, almost imperceptible sting in Emily's heart. She knew her parents loved her, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was the other child, the one who chose the less traditional, less lauded path. Then came the first tremor, a seemingly minor incident that, in hindsight, was a precursor to the earthquake that would shake their family to its core. Their grandmother, Sarah's mother, Eleanor, passed away at the ripe old age of 92. She was a feisty, independent woman with a quick wit and a treasure trove of stories, a true matriarch who had lived a long and fulfilling life. In her meticulously prepared will, she left a significant sum of money, along with a beautiful antique locket, to be divided equally between Michael and Emily. The money, a substantial sum that could provide a comfortable cushion for either sibling, was split without issue. They each received their wire transfer, and that was that. But the locket, that became an immediate and unexpected point of contention. It was a stunning piece, intricately engraved with floral patterns, and had belonged to their great-grandmother. It was a cherished family heirloom, passed down through generations. Emily, with her artistic eye and deeply sentimental nature, had always adored it. She remembered her grandmother Eleanor telling her stories about it, how it had traveled across oceans with their ancestors, a silent witness to their family's journey. It wasn't just jewelry to Emily. It was a tangible link to her past, a vessel of stories. Michael, however, saw it purely as an investment, a valuable antique to be liquidated. "This is a prime piece, Emily," he'd argued, his voice laced with his usual business acumen. "We should have it appraised by a reputable auction house and sell it. We can both benefit from the proceeds. It's a smart financial move." He insisted it be appraised and sold and the proceeds divided. He even had a buyer in mind, a collector friend who specialized in vintage jewelry. A small but intense argument ensued. Emily, uncharacteristically for her peacekeeping nature, stood her ground firmly. "It's not about the money, Michael," she pleaded, her voice cracking slightly with emotion. "It's about the history, the memories. Grandma Eleanor wanted us to have it, to keep it in the family. It's part of who we are." Michael, ever the pragmatist, scoffed, a dismissive wave of his hand. "Memories don't pay the bills, Emily. This is a valuable asset. We can both benefit from its true worth, not some sentimental attachment." Their parents, David and Sarah, trying to mediate, suggested a compromise. Perhaps they could share it, alternating years of possession, or display it in a shared family space. But neither sibling was willing to budge, their wills clashing like steel. Eventually, in a moment of utter exhaustion and heartbreak, Emily, wary of the conflict, reluctantly relented. The locket was sent to auction and sold for a tidy sum, a sum that felt hollow to Emily. That was just the warm-up act. The real drama began a few years later when David, their father, started to show subtle but undeniable signs of early onset Alzheimer's. It began with forgotten names, then missed appointments, and slowly a disorienting confusion that stole pieces of his once sharp mind. It was a cruel blow to the family, a slow, agonizing erosion of the man they knew. Sarah, ever the strong one, tried to manage everything: his medication, his doctor's appointments, his increasingly unpredictable moods. But it was clear she was struggling, the weight of the responsibility visibly aging her. Michael, consumed by his demanding corporate career in the city, offered financial support. Generous checks arrived regularly, enough to cover medical expenses and hired help. "I'm doing what I can, Mom," he'd always say over the phone, his voice tinged with genuine regret, but also a hint of self-importance. "My work keeps me tied up with clients and deadlines. You know how it is." He framed his absence as a necessity, a sacrifice he was making for the family's financial security. He saw his contribution as purely transactional. It was Emily who truly stepped up. Without a second thought, she put her thriving illustration business on hold, packing up her art supplies and moving back into the sprawling, now quiet, family home. She became their parents' primary caregiver, a role she embraced with unwavering love and dedication. She spent her days navigating the labyrinthine healthcare system, managing doctor's appointments, meticulously organizing medications, and simply being there, offering comfort, companionship, and a steady hand as her father slowly faded. She'd spend hours reading to him, even when he couldn't follow the story, or simply holding his hand, trying to bridge the gap that Alzheimer's had created. It was physically and emotionally exhausting, a relentless grind, but Emily did it without complaint, fueled by a deep, abiding love for her parents. She felt it was her duty, her honor, to care for the people who had given her so much. Michael would visit on occasion, usually for a few hours on a weekend, breezing in with expensive gifts, designer scarves for Sarah, a state-of-the-art gadget for David that he couldn't understand, but little of his precious time. He'd always commend Emily for her dedication, often with a casual, almost patronizing tone. "You're doing such a great job, Em. Really. I don't know what we'd do without you." The words were meant to be appreciative, perhaps, but to Emily, they felt like a convenient dismissal, a polite way for him to acknowledge her burden while absolving himself of any deeper responsibility. It felt like he was praising a dutiful employee, not acknowledging a sister's profound sacrifice. Years passed. David's condition worsened steadily, his memory a fragmented puzzle, his moments of clarity becoming increasingly rare. Sarah, despite her unwavering spirit, was growing visibly frail, her energy depleted by the constant demands of caregiving and the heartbreak of watching her husband slip away. Emily was stretched thin, her own life on an indefinite hold, her vibrant artistic dreams gathering dust in her old studio space, which had become more of a storage room than a creative haven. She couldn't remember the last time she had truly lost herself in a painting. She started feeling a deep, simmering resentment, a bitterness slowly festering in her heart. It was a dark, unfamiliar emotion, and she hated herself for it, but she couldn't shake it. She couldn't shake the feeling that Michael was getting off scot-free, enjoying his life of immense luxury and endless possibilities, while she bore the immense, soul-crushing burden of their parents' care, day in and day out, with no end in sight. Every time she changed her father's bed sheets or patiently re-explained something he'd forgotten 5 minutes ago, the thought would creep in, Michael isn't here. Then came the bombshell. One quiet afternoon, while going through some old financial documents for her mother, trying to locate a missing insurance policy, Emily stumbled upon a hidden compartment in their father's antique mahogany desk, a piece he had always cherished. It wasn't obvious, tucked away behind a false panel in one of the drawers. Inside, she found a meticulously capped leather-bound ledger. It wasn't just a regular financial ledger. It was a comprehensive record of all the family's assets, their investments, various deeds, and shockingly, a detailed account of her parents' joint wills, complete with amendments and codicils. With trembling hands, Emily pulled out the ledger and carefully opened it. Her eyes scanned the neat, precise handwriting, her father's familiar script, documenting decades of family finances. And then she saw it, a specific clause in her parents' joint will, signed years ago, long before her father's illness had truly taken hold. It stated in stark, unambiguous terms that upon the death of both parents, the cherished family home, the house Emily had just poured years of her life into caring for, and the vast majority of their remaining liquid assets would be left solely to Michael. Emily was to receive a small annuity, a sum that felt insultingly meager compared to Michael's substantial inheritance, along with a few personal items of sentimental value, like her mother's antique tea set and some old family photos. It felt like a physical punch to the gut. All those years of selfless care, of putting her life on hold, of sacrificing her own dreams and youth, and this was her reward? It was a betrayal so profound, so deeply personal, that she could barely breathe. The air felt thin, her world tilted. She reread the clause again and again, hoping she'd misunderstood, hoping her eyes were playing tricks on her. But the words were brutally clear. The beloved family house, the extensive land it sat on, the bulk of their savings, their investment portfolios, all for Michael. Her first furious instinct was to storm into her mother's room and confront her, demand an explanation, scream about the injustice. But she hesitated. Sarah was already so frail, so burdened by David's declining health, so vulnerable. Could she really add this distress, this painful revelation to her plate? Could she risk tearing apart the fragile piece that still, miraculously, remained in their home, shattering her mother's last years with bitterness and conflict? For weeks, Emily wrestled with the revelation, the knowledge gnawing at her from the inside, a toxic secret consuming her thoughts. The resentment she had felt towards Michael now transformed into a burning, icy fury. He, who had done so little, was to inherit so much. She, who had sacrificed everything, was to be left with crumbs, an afterthought in their parents' final wishes. The sheer injustice of it all was overwhelming, a fire raging within her. She started seeing Michael in a new, sinister light, his charming facade now appearing manipulative, his occasional visits feeling like condescending gestures of a king bestowing favors upon his humble subject. One evening, during one of Michael's rare weekend visits, a brief interlude between his high-powered business trips, Emily couldn't hold it in any longer. Her mother was asleep, exhausted from the day's caregiving, and David was resting peacefully in his room. The house was quiet, save for the hum of the refrigerator. Emily cornered Michael in the kitchen, the damning ledger clutched tightly in her trembling hand, its leather cover feeling suddenly menacing. "What is this, Michael?" she demanded, her voice a low, dangerous whisper that trembled with barely suppressed rage. "What is this?" Michael's usually composed face instantly paled. He stammered, caught completely off guard. "What are you talking about, Em? What's in your hand?" Emily didn't answer with words. Instead, she threw the ledger onto the gleaming granite counter with a resounding thud, forcing it open to the precise page detailing the will's clause. This is what I'm talking about. Our parents' will. You get everything, Michael, everything, while I get a measly pittance? After all I've done, all I've given up? Her voice escalated, raw with emotion. Michael's initial shock gave way to a cold, defensive anger. He straightened his tie, regaining his composure, his lawyer's instincts kicking in. "It's Mom and Dad's decision, Emily. It's their money. They can do what they want with it." Emily scoffed, a bitter, humorless sound. "Their decision or your manipulation? Did you put them up to this, Michael? Did you twist their words? Convince them I wasn't worthy? While I was here, cleaning up after Dad, changing his clothes, sitting by his bedside day and night, taking care of Mom, sacrificing my entire life, you were off building your empire, playing the high-flying corporate lawyer, and secretly planning to snatch all of their legacy for yourself?" The argument escalated into a full-blown shouting match, their voices echoing loudly through the quiet house, each word a venomous arrow. Sarah, startled awake by the commotion, came shuffling into the kitchen, her eyes wide with fear and confusion, her delicate frame trembling. "What's going on? Why are you fighting? Please stop," she pleaded, her voice weak and distressed. Seeing their mother's distress, a crushing wave of guilt washed over Emily. Her anger momentarily deflated, replaced by a deep sorrow. She couldn't subject her to this, not now, not ever. She snatched the ledger from the counter, almost tearing the pages, and fled the house, the overwhelming mix of anger, pain, and guilt overwhelming her. She drove aimlessly for hours through the winding country roads. The image of her mother's frightened, confused face burned into her mind, a haunting reminder of the collateral damage of their family's unraveling. The next few days were excruciatingly tense. Emily refused to speak to Michael, her silence a wall between them, and he, for his part, made no attempt to reach out, likely stewing in his own mix of resentment and perhaps a flicker of unease. The silence in the house was heavy, suffocating, punctuated only by Sarah's worried sighs and her constant, questioning gaze towards Emily. Emily knew she had to do something, anything, but she wasn't sure what. She couldn't let this injustice stand, but she also couldn't destroy what little was left of her family, especially not while her parents were so vulnerable and her mother so fragile. Then, a flicker of memory, a long-forgotten detail from her childhood, ignited a spark of hope within Emily. She remembered something her grandmother Eleanor had told her, a small, whimsical detail about the antique locket she had so desperately wanted to keep. Her grandmother had mentioned, almost offhandedly, that the locket wasn't just an heirloom. It contained a tiny, hidden compartment, almost imperceptible to the naked eye. She had said it held a secret, a family truth that only those who truly cherished their history, Emily, would ever discover. Emily had dismissed it as a fanciful tale at the time, caught up in the heated argument over its sale and the practicalities of inheritance. But now, that seemingly innocent detail resonated with a new, profound significance. What if the locket wasn't just about money or sentiment? What if it held a deeper clue, a different kind of truth that could change everything? Driven by this desperate hope, Emily immediately set out to track down the antique dealer who had purchased the locket. It wasn't easy. She made countless calls, sifted through old receipts, and navigated a labyrinth of antique market contacts. But Emily was relentless, fueled by a renewed sense of purpose. When she finally reached him, a kindly old gentleman named Mr. Peterson, who ran a quaint shop filled with forgotten treasures, she explained the situation. She spoke of the locket's profound personal significance, her family's history, and her desperate need to examine it again, just for a moment. Mr. Peterson, a man who truly appreciated the stories behind his artifacts, was sympathetic. He agreed to let her see it, explaining with a slight smile that, coincidentally, it hadn't yet been sold to a new collector. It was still on display in a private collection for potential buyers. The moment she held the locket again, a strange, powerful sense of familiarity, almost a historical resonance, washed over her. It felt right in her hands. She ran her fingers along its intricate engravings, tracing the delicate floral patterns, searching meticulously for the hidden catch her grandmother had mentioned. It took time, patience, and a delicate touch, her fingers trembling slightly with anticipation. But finally, she found it. A tiny, almost invisible hinge, seamlessly integrated into the locket's exquisite design. So clever, it was nearly impossible to detect without prior knowledge. With a soft, almost imperceptible click, the compartment sprang open. Inside, not a jewel or a miniature portrait as one might expect, but a tightly rolled piece of parchment, yellowed and brittle with age, tied with a thin, faded red ribbon. Emily carefully unfurled it, her heart pounding in her chest. It was a letter, written in a delicate, elegant hand, the ink slightly faded but still perfectly legible. It was addressed simply, "My dearest descendants." The letter was from her great-grandmother, Eliza Miller. It spoke of a secret, a profound family truth that had been carefully guarded for generations, passed down verbally, and now, finally, through this hidden message. It revealed that the Miller family, once prosperous farmers with generations of land ownership, had fallen on incredibly hard times during the Great Depression. They had been on the very verge of losing everything: their farm, their home, their entire livelihood. It was then that Emily's great-grandmother, a woman of remarkable strength, fierce independence, and incredible resourcefulness, had secretly taken on extra work, toiling tirelessly. More astonishingly, she had mortgaged her own small, private inheritance, a sum from her side of the family that no one else knew about, to save the family farm from foreclosure. She had done it in absolute secret, unwilling to burden her proud husband with the shame of their financial struggles, wanting him to believe his efforts alone had saved them. The letter went on to explain the crucial detail that the farm, the very land the Miller house now stood upon, was technically still registered in her great-grandmother's maiden name, passed down through the female line with a unique and legally binding provision for the current female descendant. It was a brilliant legal loophole, a forgotten clause from a time when women had to be incredibly clever and strategic to secure their family's future and their own autonomy. The letter explicitly stated that the land, and by extension the house built upon it, was to be inherited by the daughter of each generation, unless she chose to explicitly relinquish her claim. It was a protection, a way to ensure the women of the family always had a secure stake, a home, a foundation, regardless of the men's fortunes or missteps. Emily was absolutely stunned, breathless with the magnitude of the revelation. The house, the very foundation of her family's perceived wealth and stability, wasn't meant for Michael at all. It was meant for her. The will her parents had made, the one that so heavily favored Michael, was unknowingly overriding a much older, legally binding family legacy. Her parents, especially her father with his declining health, had likely either forgotten this ancient provision, dismissed it as irrelevant, or perhaps had never even known about this particular detail of Eliza's shrewd foresight. It was a profound truth hidden in plain sight, a secret guarded not just by a locket, but by the determined spirit of a forgotten ancestor. The revelation was both exhilarating and terrifying. She had the undeniable proof, the irrefutable truth that validated her sacrifices and reaffirmed her rightful place in the family's legacy. But how, she agonized, could she present this to her already fragile family without causing further devastation? How could she explain that the very ground they stood on was, legally, hers, without alienating her already vulnerable mother and her fiercely self-righteous brother? It was a tightrope walk over a chasm of potential ruin. Emily decided, wisely, to consult a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, but a trusted family friend, Mr. Arthur Henderson, who specialized in complex estate law and had a reputation for discretion and wisdom. She presented him with the infamous ledger, her parents' more recent will, and finally, the ancient, fragile letter from the locket. Mr. Henderson, a man of quiet demeanor but sharp intellect, listened intently, his expression growing increasingly intrigued as Emily recounted the full, convoluted story. After carefully reviewing all the documents, cross-referencing dates, and examining the historical property records, he confirmed Emily's suspicions. The great-grandmother's provision, though ancient, was indeed legally sound, and crucially, superseded her parents' more recent will regarding the property. It was a forgotten but ironclad clause. He advised her to approach her family carefully, emphasizing diplomacy over confrontation. He suggested starting with their mother when she was having a good day, when her mind was clearest, and then, with her mother's support, approaching Michael. He stressed the importance of emphasizing the historical significance of the discovery, the incredible story of their great-grandmother's courage, rather than immediately dropping the legal bombshell. "This isn't about taking something away from Michael, Emily," he gently advised. "It's about honoring your family's remarkable past and a woman who truly saved them all. Frame it as a discovery of your heritage, not a dispute over property." Armed with this new knowledge and a carefully constructed plan, Emily returned home. She waited for the perfect moment. A quiet afternoon when her mother was lucid and calm, perhaps knitting by the window. With a deep, fortifying breath, Emily sat beside her and carefully, gently, began to explain what she had found in the locket. She started not with the will, but with the incredible, forgotten story of their great-grandmother, Eliza. Her courage, her ingenuity, and her profound sacrifice, painting a vivid picture of a resourceful woman who had single-handedly saved their family from ruin. Sarah listened, her eyes widening as Emily recounted the incredible tale of Eliza and the desperate times of the Depression. When Emily finally handed her the ancient letter, Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Tears not of sorrow, but of profound understanding and belated recognition. "My mother, she never told me this," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, a mixture of awe and sadness, for the unspoken struggles of her own mother. She always said there were secrets in our family, Emily, deep roots, but I never knew it was this. Emily then, with great trepidation, explained the legal implications that the house, their cherished home, was historically and legally hers. To Emily's immense surprise and relief, Sarah didn't react with anger or disbelief, as Emily had feared. Instead, a profound sense of peace settled over her features. "It makes sense," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper. "My mother was always so strong, so independent, so fiercely protective of our family. This was her legacy, her true gift to the women of our family, to ensure they always had a secure place." She reached out, her frail hand covering Emily's. "You have borne the greatest burden, Emily. You have cared for your father and me without complaint, without question, when no one else truly could. Perhaps this is how it was always meant to be. It is right." With her mother's profound blessing and unwavering support, Emily then faced Michael. This conversation was far more difficult, fraught with tension. Michael, upon seeing the ancient letter and hearing the lawyer's unwavering confirmation, was initially furious, his face red with rage. He accused Emily of manipulation, of orchestrating a grand scheme to steal what he believed was rightfully his. He ranted about Emily's scheming and the undeniable injustice of it all, his lawyer's mind struggling to reconcile his own planned inheritance with this unforeseen historical document. But Emily, fortified by her mother's quiet strength and the undeniable truth of the situation, stood her ground. She calmly reiterated the detailed history, the legal facts, and pointed out the profound irony. While he had been pursuing external success and accumulating immense wealth, she had been quietly upholding the family's true foundation, literally keeping their home and their parents alive. She reminded him, gently but firmly, that she hadn't sought this out. The truth had simply revealed itself, a legacy from an ancestor who knew the true meaning of safeguarding family. It took time. It took several more tense, draining discussions, with Sarah occasionally stepping in, her gentle voice a surprising balm that managed to calm Michael down, reminding him of their mother's legacy and the sacrifices Emily had made. But eventually, the sheer weight of the historical evidence, the irrefutable legal standing, and perhaps, just perhaps, a flicker of shame for his earlier dismissiveness and neglect began to sink in. Michael, the astute corporate lawyer, understood the legal standing perfectly, and he also, deep down, knew the undeniable truth of Emily's unwavering dedication to their parents, a dedication he couldn't possibly match with mere financial contributions. In the end, Michael, with a begrudging but definitive nod, agreed to honor the ancient will. He didn't do it gracefully. There was no heartfelt apology or grand gesture, but he did it. The official legal process for the transfer of the property to Emily was initiated, ensuring that when their parents eventually passed, the house would rightfully and indisputably be hers. Emily, in turn, in a gesture of peace and an acknowledgement of his financial support over the years, even if from a distance, offered Michael a significant portion of the remaining liquid inheritance that was still theirs to divide, separate from the house. It was a bridge offered, a chance for a new kind of family peace. The Miller family found a fragile, new equilibrium. The secret of the locket not only revealed a hidden inheritance, but also forced them all to confront their own roles, their own assumptions, and the true, complex meaning of family. Emily finally had her home, a tangible representation of her deep roots, her unwavering loyalty, and the legacy of the strong women who came before her. Michael, humbled in a way he never expected, learned a valuable lesson about what truly matters beyond material wealth and corporate success. The house was more than just property. It was a testament to love, sacrifice, and the enduring power of family history. And that, my friends, is where we leave the Miller family. A tale of betrayal, hidden truths, and the unexpected, profound power of an antique locket that carried a family's deepest secret. It just goes to show you, sometimes the most profound truths, the most significant secrets are hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right person, the right moment to uncover them. What did you think of this story? Did you see that incredible twist coming with the locket? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to The Unseen Legacy, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the unpredictable, often shocking world of real-life family drama. Until next time, stay safe, stay dramatic, and remember, every family has a story, and some of them are truly unforgettable.